I get a text from GC in the group chat saying, is this Jon Jones news real? Quickly go on Twitter, see Dana White is holding court. Post-fight press conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, shout out. And he announces to the world that Jon Jones has retired. That not only has Jon Jones retired, he has also vacated his title. And as a result, Tom Aspinall is the new UFC heavyweight champion. No longer the interim champion, he's the heavyweight champion. Something that should have happened 2 years ago when he beat Sergey Pavlovich at Madison Square Garden. Because that's really how this should have been handled from the beginning. Should have been handled. Jon Jones couldn't fight November of 2023. They call Tom Aspinall to save the day. He fights on 2 weeks' notice against Sergey Pavlovich. He knocks him out in a couple of minutes. He should have been the champion on that night. He should be approaching the 2-year anniversary of his reign. He beat Curtis Blades in July. Probably should have fought once already this year, maybe even this coming weekend. But you all know the story. You all know what has transpired over the last 8 or so months. And so in case you missed it, this is how the reign of Jon Jones, the career, at least for now, of Jon Jones came to an end. Saturday night, technically Sunday morning in Azerbaijan, 11 or so minutes into the press conference, Dana White is asked, after a bunch of questions about guys he probably has never heard of or regions, where he's going to go, he's asked about the heavyweight division, and this is how he announces the news. Take a look.
On the heavyweight front, you recently set a deadline for Jon Jones to face Tom Aspinall or risk losing the title. And with that situation evolving, what criteria are you using to decide? Uphold legacy by waiting for Jones or prioritize division activity by clearing the belt?
You said the timeline for Jones, 2 weeks to decide what to do with the title, whether it takes the fight or you're going to strip him. What do you think is more important, to keep the belt there so he can uphold his legacy, or we move the heavyweight division, take the title away from him?
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you just canceled out my question, but anyway, I don't know if you heard about this, but seems like Francis wants to come back, and he says he changed his mind. Would you be open for him to come back if he really wants to, and then if he says okay to your conditions?
Francis says he changed his mind and he would consider coming back to the UFC. Would you be open to having Francis back?
He would consider coming back to UFC if what? One thing I've learned over the years about Francis doesn't always mean what he says publicly. What he says behind the scenes are different than what he says publicly. I'm not a big fan. I would be shocked if Francis ever came back here on lots of different levels. I'm not a fan, and he doesn't always mean what he says publicly.
All right, so 2 things there. Number one, the reporters, for the most part, did an okay job. I'm not here to criticize them. We need to get this right. Francis Ngannou has never said, ever, that he's willing to come back. There was a hypothetical conversation between his coach and Luke Thomas, Eric Nixick and Luke Thomas, about if he could come back. He never said it. So that question was not fair to Francis Ngannou. And then the subsequent slander, not fair as well. It's also ignoring the fact that Francis Ngannou has a contract with the PFL. He can't just waltz back into the UFC. Now, they could co-promote. We all know that's not going to happen. So it's a pointless and useless follow-up question. But there you have it. That's how it's announced. Dana White says that he got a call the day before and Jon Jones is out. Now, I think what happened was Jon Jones did this interview with the Nelk boys where he all but said he was done, which was interesting because this interview was conducted last Saturday after the DBX card, and Jon had been telling us for quite some time, I already told the UFC my plans. I'm not sure why they haven't done anything with it. But it seems as though as he continued to try and hint at what his plans were, the UFC felt like their hand was forced and they had to put it out there. Because at this point, what are we waiting for? Now, Tom Aspinall is coming to Las Vegas this week. He will be there back end of the week. He was told that a decision would be made by International Fight Week. Why I think this is ludicrous that it all went down like this was we had waited so long for the resolution to this issue Could they have not done something in Las Vegas in front of all the fans before the press conference, after the press conference, before the weigh-ins, after the weigh-ins? In the middle of the card on Saturday, before the fight, after the fight, presenting Tom with the belt, saying, you are the man, this is the glamour division, you are the baddest man on the planet, you're the heavyweight champion, you've done it all right, everything we've asked of you. Why not do it like that? He's literally going to be there in a couple of days. Where every media member, every fan is going to be there. You do it like this? In a throwaway, midway through a press conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, in the middle of the night over there, when no one's paying attention, you do it like that? What is that? Like, surely we can't be that apathetic about the product. Surely we can't care that little about the state of things. This is the heavyweight championship of the world. That's how you announce that Tom Aspinall is the king? That's how you announce that Jon Jones is retired? That's massive news. When Michael Jordan, the GOAT of his sport, retired, there was a huge press conference, and every single media member under the sun was there. Jon Jones' retirement is a throwaway, midway question in a press conference in the middle of the night in Baku, Azerbaijan. Does anyone else not see the lunacy in all of this? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And so I was trying to figure out, why didn't they just wait? Why didn't they just wait? Why didn't they do something in Vegas, a presentation, a ceremony, something to make this feel big, special, to wash away the annoying nature of the past 7 or so months, as we are constantly told it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I guarantee it's going to happen. Up until recently, a couple of weeks ago to Jim Rome, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then 30 or so minutes after the press conference, the Albuquerque Journal drops a massive piece of news. The Albuquerque Journal, which has been covering Jon Jones for quite some time, and a reporter named Jeff Grammer, who we've had on the program before to talk about Holly Holm, been covering Jon, has been covering the Albuquerque fighters like Holly, like Michelle Watterson, all the Jackson Wing fighters. They drop this news literally minutes after the announcement. Jon Jones, the often battled Albuquerque resident, considered by many to be the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, shocked the combat sports world Saturday when UFC President Dana White announced the fighter had retired. But the news didn't come before one more legal matter arose, one White did not reference in his Saturday afternoon announcement of Jones' retirement. The Journal has learned a criminal summons accusing Jones, 37, of a misdemeanor charge of leaving the scene of an accident in February was filed Tuesday in Metropolitan Court. I'm reading this now and I'm like, is this a story from like 9 years ago, 10 years, 11 years ago, when he left the scene of a hit and run? Because it's eerily similar. Jones has been called to appear for a bond arraignment on July 24th in Metro Court. The criminal complaint stated an Albuquerque police officer was investigating a traffic crash near San Mateo and Lomas when she came across a woman in the passenger seat of one of the cars exhibiting signs of significant intoxication and lacking clothing from the waist down. The woman reportedly said Jones was the driver, but fled the scene on foot. She then called Jones, the complaint stated, and a police service aide spoke to the man on the other end of the call believed to be Jones. He, quote, appeared to be heavily intoxicated and made statements implying his capacity to employ lethal force through third parties to the PSA, the court record stated. The PSA requested backup after what was believed to be a threat. When a police officer then talked to Jones, it said similar allusions to violence were made. The man on the phone never answered direct questions about whether he was Jones, the complaint stated. It goes on and on. This is a horrible look. The woman later told police she drank alcohol and consumed mushrooms at Jones's house and recalled needing to change her clothes at his house. And her, quote, next recollection was being at the scene of a traffic accident, end quote. She said the last person she remembered driving her car was Jones, the court record indicated. Police said Jones called the woman's phone 13 times from the time of the crash until 11:34 a.m. the following morning, and that text messages from his phone were included, though could not be, quote unquote, captured in call detail records. And so when I read this, I'm like, holy crap. They put this out there to beat this news to the punch. Obviously, they don't want to have their heavyweight champion attached to it. So we say, hey, Jon, you got to move on. We're either going to let you retire and vacate or we're stripping you. What do you want to do? It's sort of like when a team has a great relationship with a coach. We don't want to say we fired you, we parted ways, you resign. Keep your dignity intact. And I was almost certain, I mean, the timing is too close. I was almost certain that was the case. But then I reached out to Jeff Grammer of the Albuquerque Journal. And I said, hey, because what I thought was they reached out to the UFC for comment. The UFC catches wind of the news. This happened in February, 4 months ago. They say, hey, we got to get ahead of it. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. Jeff Grammer tells me he's sitting there. He sees the news of Jon Jones's retirement. And amazingly, as an incredible reporter, says, hey, let me just look up Jon Jones's name, Jonathan Jones, in the Albuquerque police records and see if anything comes up. And voila, there's this incident from February. What? That's absurd. How they kept this quiet for 4 months, I will never understand. One of the most famous, if not the most famous resident of Albuquerque gets into another fender bender, if you want to call it that, and no one knows for 4 months? In the past, we knew within hours. Now, I've spoken to a few people who are very, very tied in, and they said they've known about it, but the police did a great job of keeping it under wraps. That's what they said. He's got great relationships. And if not for Jeff Grammer looking it up after the announcement, who knows if and when it ever gets out. I'm assuming it would have at some point. But to suggest now that the UFC got ahead of this because they knew, no, he only reached out to them after the press conference for comment, Jeff Grammer, which makes the announcement and the timing and the decision to do it at a post-fight press conference at Baku all that much more insane. They dodged one because we could be sitting here on a Monday saying, when are they going to move on from this guy? They literally dodged it by minutes. Unbelievably. The domino of their announcement led to us finding out about this. In the midst of all of this, Jon Jones puts out a statement essentially saying that he's confirming the news that he's done. Today, I'm officially announcing my retirement from the UFC. This decision comes after a lot of reflection, and I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for the journey I've experienced over the years. From the first time I stepped into the octagon, my goal was to push the boundaries of what was possible in this sport, becoming the youngest UFC champion in history, defending my title against some of the best fighters in the world, except for at the end, and sharing unforgettable moments. It goes on and on. Now, some people put it in some sort of AI thing and said it was I don't know how to do that. Who cares? It is what it is. There's the statement. This morning, his lawyer, Christopher Dodd, puts out this statement. As Jon's lawyer, I'm stunned by the Albuquerque Police Department's decision to charge him in this new case. In the thousands of cases I've handled in my career, I've never seen a case as strange and unwarranted as this one. Jon was not driving that night. He wasn't in the car. It appears that an intoxicated woman used a false allegation against Jon to avoid being arrested for a DWI, and the police fell for it. Based on the criminal complaint, it looks like they went so far as to seek a warrant for Jon's cell phone records while conducting a misdemeanor traffic investigation. I've never heard of such a thing. It is truly unbelievable that the police would waste this amount of resources on such a case. The only thing I could think of is that the police were targeting Jon for improper purposes. We will get to the bottom of it and make sure this baseless case is dismissed. So this will go on, and it's amazing because the story of Jon Jones was littered with these issues. One's almost exactly identical to this one. We'll see how it happens. We'll see how it all shakes out. But for it to end like this is something that no one could have scripted. I mean, it's unimaginable that it could end the same way that it almost like got off the ground with that first DUI and then the stuff in the middle and then the pandemic stuff and now this. But here's what we can unequivocally say. I told you months ago, the UFC wanted to make this fight. They did everything in their power to make this fight. Jon Jones asked for $30 million. They didn't want to give him $30 million. They negotiated. I heard from one source that even Turkey got involved. He wanted to make the fight. They eventually got to the $30 million. Jon said he was in. A couple days later, he said he was out. And once he said he was out, he was never back in. And that's now 2-3 months ago. Why they waited so long? As we told you a million times, They were holding out hope that they could convince him. And until they had to pull the trigger, they didn't feel like they had to make any kind of announcement. Initially, they were talking about an August fight at MSG on that 16th date. And then they were hoping for the November date at MSG. In the midst of all this, as Jon says, I'm out, he's openly campaigning for a Francis fight. In November, after beating Stipe, he's openly campaigning for an Alex Pereira fight. So if you sit here and say, Jon just didn't want to fight anymore, you're not being truthful. You're not telling the full story. Jon Jones retired because of Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones retired because of the presence of Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones retired because he did not want to fight Tom Aspinall. That is an unequivocal fact. Jon Jones will tell you that the reason he retired is because Tom Aspinall isn't a big enough name and there's no one else for him to fight. No, Jon Jones retired because he did not want to fight Tom Aspinall and because there was a threat of Tom beating him, and there's a lot of equity, there's a lot of value in retiring undefeated. And so, hey, we made our money, we're getting a boatload to do Russian reality shows, let's just walk away. But look, if anyone wants to say that he retired and walked away because he did not want to fight Tom Aspinall, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. That's the truth. Because if Ngannou was available now, he would fight him. If Pereira was available, he would fight him. If Cyril Gane was available again, or Martin Boudet was available again, or Jalton Almeida was available, or Marcin Tybura, he would fight those guys. He doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall, and he felt cornered, and so he's walking away now. Does he come back? Maybe when Tom stumbles, if he stumbles, or if there's a super fight out there, who knows? I never say never in this game. Never. But he is not fighting anymore, and he gave up his belt to not fight Tom Aspinall. That's an incredible feather in Tom Aspinall's cap. A young man from Wigan made the supposed GOAT retired. And I don't want to hear the GOAT talk. I'm sorry. I'm tired of beating around the bush here. You cannot be the GOAT if you have multiple PED infractions on your record. You can't. And you cannot be the GOAT if you didn't want to do what others did for you. Time-honored tradition, you fight the top contenders. Not only was Tom Aspinall the top contender, he was the interim champion for almost 2 years. You didn't want to fight him. And you told us time and again, as recently as your interview with the Nelk Boys, Tom doesn't excite me. The Tom-Jon fight would have been the biggest fight of Jon Jones's career since DC2 in 2017, 8 years ago. With all due respect to Anthony Smith, to Thiago Santos, to Dominic Reyes, to Cyril Gane, to even Stipe himself, none of them come close to this fight. Dana White himself called it the biggest heavyweight fight of all time. The anticipation, the buildup, the buildup, the buildup, the buildup. So this idea that he doesn't excite you, that he hasn't done enough, is hogwash. Look at his resume. Look at Jon Jones's resume. Not even close. As far as heavyweight, not even close. Not even close. Tom is a natural, real heavyweight who has fought them all and done it the right way. And has had the shortest time in the octagon. And what did I tell you guys from the beginning? Just like I told you all about the Conor thing a year ago, and some of you Johnny-come-latelys didn't believe me, I told you all months ago. He was in and then he was out. They got him the money and then they didn't. Meaning he was in and then he said he didn't want to fight anymore. And Dana White said at the presser in Newark, he's in. He agreed. And what did I say on the Monday after? He's not telling you the other side of that story. The other side is he's out. And what did he say when Mike Bond said there were rumors of the FU money and then him walking away from it? Unless you hear it from us, don't believe anything. Well, look at what he says to reporters yesterday at Fanatics Fest.
Did you know about the stuff that came out of Albuquerque last night?
I saw it today. When I saw it today, I said, oh, everybody's going to think this is why he retired. Maybe that is why he retired. Who the hell knows, man? But, yeah, I don't know. These are all questions you got to ask him. We had the fight done. You saw me talking about it very confidently that this fight was going to happen. And then he changed his mind.
There it is. Thank you. Confirmation. We had the fight done. He changed his mind. Thank you. Can I get a clap, Frank? When will you stop doubting? When will you start believing? Maybe after number 16. Anything. 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 Thank you. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And so now we wake up on this Monday to a new reality, a new era. Tom Aspinall, the heavyweight champion, as he should have been 2 years ago. And Jon Jones now has a new legal issue to deal with. And he couldn't have screwed this up more. If he just would have made this, if he did, what he wanted to happen was that he would ask for the money, the UFC would say no and say, hey guys, they don't want to pay me, I'm out. UFC got him the money. It didn't work out. That's what happened 5 years ago with Francis. That was his alibi. The alibi was, hey guys, they didn't want to pay me. I'm not doing it. And who could blame him? Because as I said, he deserved it back then and he deserved it now. But I think he thought, just like 5 years ago, they weren't going to come to the table. Well, guess what? They came to the table because they wanted to make the fight. And in the end, there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And so Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion. This isn't me being a hater. This is telling it like it is. This is telling you the exact truth of what happened. The exact truth. He didn't want to fight Tom, and so he's retiring. And that's an awful way to end one's career. If he just would have walked away in New York because he never wanted to fight Tom, none of this would have been an issue. GSP moved up to fight the undisputed champion at 185 and retired a few weeks later. GSP retired on the night that he beat Johnny Hendricks. That's how you do it. That's how GOATs act. That's how the fight game works. You don't string this along for months and then disparage the guy, say he's not big enough, not good enough, when he would have been the biggest fight that you've had in 8 years, and then just retire via a throwaway announcement at a post-fight press conference in Baku, Azerbaijan. Are you kidding me? Absurd. So all of this, as I said on Saturday, is shameful. The way it was handled, the way it was announced, all of it. But now we can move on because it's a new day. It's a new era. And Tom Aspinall himself told us that he's going to be a fighting champion. And so in about an hour after we speak to Topuria and Sadikhov, I'm going to go through the timeline of all the stuff just as a refresher for fun, because you know we like to do those deep dives. GC, Rick, PT will join us as well. And we'll just lay it all out for you one more time. I mean, I pretty much laid it out here as far as what happened over the past 72 or so hours, but I want to go all the way back. All the way back. Because really, this all starts with the Pavlovich fight. That's when he should have been champion. And Jones versus Stipe would have been a fine fight to just do as a Legends fight, main event, no problem. Madison Square Garden, no one would have batted an eye. But they screwed this up back when they did not make Pavlovich versus Aspinall for the undisputed title back in November of 2023. All of this could have been avoided. And they screwed it up by not making it into a big deal this week. Ultimately, Tom is going to fight probably later this year. Uh-oh. What happened? Probably later this year. Maybe in Abu Dhabi. And the train will roll along and everything will be okay. But this could have been handled so much better. So much better. And you know, it's crazy. There's so many similarities between this situation and the Topuria Makhachev situation. Big fight doesn't come to fruition. Right there. Obviously, Makhachev moving up. But I think there's a lot of similarities, so I'd like to talk to Ilya about that when we are joined by him, hopefully in a couple of minutes here. And I remember Dana White telling us many, many times over the past 7 or 8 months. I remember him saying, this is going to happen, 100%, 100%, I guarantee it. They knew as of 2-3 months ago it wasn't going to happen. And I also remember 14 or so years ago, while the UFC is scratching and clawing its way to the top, which is where they're at right now, saying, hey, we make the big fights. But when you just look at the heavyweight division, there has been an opportunity to make 4 massive fights, maybe the biggest over the past 16, 17 years, and they have not been made. Fyodor versus Randy, Fyodor versus Brock, Jones versus Ngannou, and now Jones versus Aspinall. I laid this out And people are like, well, what about Anderson versus GSP? And what about Anderson versus Jon Jones? Etc. Yeah, those are other. I'm just talking about the heavyweights. The heavyweight division. The glamour division. Unbelievable. I can't believe it all went down like that. I can't believe they announced it like that after all these years. That's Jones versus Gustafsson. I think that's Jones versus Gustafsson too. I was watching the Nelk Boy thing. I could do a 1 hour breakdown of just the Nelk Boy interview, but now it's old. At one point, he asks him, Kyle does, have you ever fought in Canada? And he says, yeah, I fought Alexander Gustafsson there, UFC 165. And he's like, oh yeah? What city was that in? And he goes, Montreal. How do you not know that? Now, I remember John telling me that, he was doing a lot of stuff that week in Toronto, but like, as I said on Saturday, that's like confusing New York and Chicago. He never fought in Montreal. What are you talking about? That interview is wild. At one point, he says, if Francis presents himself in a humble way, maybe he could come back. What? Francis has never once insinuated that he wants to come back. Not once. What are we talking about here? Never. Show me once. This idea that he legally couldn't say anything, couldn't make an announcement, is hogwash as well. He said that for months now. I legally can't make this announcement. I legally can't do anything. The UFC is going to have to make the call. They're going to have to tell you all the news. What? Did Henry Cejudo ask them for permission when he vacated the title? Did GSP ask them for permission when he vacated the title? No. You do what you got to do. You're moving on. What do you care? What's it to you at this point? You're moving on. You're not taking the fight. You agreed to the number, and now you don't want to fight. All right. I hate the ducking thing. I hate that, especially with cage fighters. Jon Jones has fought them all. He's number 2 for me. And if we're allowing PEDs, I can understand it. I think the PED stuff removes you from the conversation, as it does Anderson as well. But the resume is undeniable. The people, the legends that he fought, undeniable. For it to end like this is really hard to imagine. Because in one breath, he's telling us Tom isn't that good. And now you're like, what's the explanation? Then why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you fighting? I don't get it. And why didn't you then just make the announcement back in November? In case you're wondering, Tom Aspinall did go on his YouTube channel and briefly talk about this. I believe we have the clip. Can we play the clip real quick?
Everyone, the news has broken. I'm sure everybody's seen it. UFC undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Moving forward, very, very important to me, just that I acknowledge everybody quickly who has supported me in this. I'm not going to say it was a tough time, but a bit of a challenging time over like the last kind of 10, 11 months that I have been inactive due to no fault of my own. But luckily, that is all behind us now. Massively appreciate the support from everybody. Massively appreciate the support going forward. I am going to keep this thing as active as possible. I want to be the best heavyweight ever to walk the face of the earth. I'm going to defend this thing as many times as I possibly can. I'm going to keep you guys entertained. I'm going to really give back to everybody who has shown me support over the last year, over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years. Really appreciate the support and love from everybody. And we're going to see an active, defending UFC heavyweight undisputed champion going forward. Thank you guys, and I'll speak to you soon.
There it is. There's Tom. For you fans, it's time to get this heavyweight division going, an active, undisputed champion. Now, I can tell you, Tom Aspinall is going to be in Las Vegas later this week. The Uncrowned Squad going to be in Las Vegas later this week as well. There Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.